Diagnose.
Warning, listening to Unleash Your Genius can be good for your health.
Symptoms may include looking and feeling better,
More energy, healthier kids, and increased productivity.
Unleash Your Genius podcast brings you the science, art, and philosophy of health, wellness,
Epigenetics, and lifestyle.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Unleash Your Genius podcast. I'm Dr. Brian. I'm your host. Whether you are listening to me in the car or you're out exercising, maybe you're at work, maybe you're not doing any of those things, but I just wanted to thank you for spending your time with us. I know your time is very valuable, and I know there's a lot of great podcasts out there, and I'm really honored that you are spending some time with me and my guest today. One of the really cool things about doing a podcast is that I get a chance to talk to people from all over the world. You know, back a few months ago, I got to speak with Dr. Mary Wingo, and she's up in Ecuador. And we spoke about stress. And, you know, I spoke with Vishnu from Ohio. And, you know, he's got some of the highest rated downloads so far. And, you know, sometimes I get to talk to my neighbors just down the road. And this is the opportunity that I have today, is to speak with an amazing and talented woman, very brave, open, and honest person who shares really deeply about what she went through, how she fought cancer, and what she had to go through. And she really helps someone who is either going through something like that or a family member. This is going to be a really valuable episode for you to listen to my guest today. You know, usually our topic is health and wellness, and today is no exception to that, except that we're going to be looking at health from an angle that we haven't really covered or don't really talk too much about. We're going to be talking about the mind-body connection and how the brain and how we think about ourselves can affect us in a physical way and set our body up for creating an environment that may not be healthy. I think today's interview is important in two ways. Number one, my guest is going to get very real and raw about her experience with cancer. And she holds nothing back. She's very brave, and I really appreciate her for sharing her story with me and with us today. And, you know, the other reason why I think this podcast is going to be really valuable for you is that from her career, what she does professionally, she gives some great tips on finding your voice and helping people express themselves in a true way. And so let me introduce my guest today. So my guest today is Lisa Lockland-Bell. She's a professional singer, speaker, and a vocal coach. She has many tools to help people create a voice that delivers a legacy of results. And Lisa helps people speak confidently, communicate effectively, and make a deeper connection. And together with her clients, she creates what she calls a fusion of science, mindset, technique, desire, and self-belief. So hi, Lisa. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited about today's conversation. And I know I just introduced you. Can you just tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. I started singing many moons ago. I was only 8 years of age, and that then rolled on to me going through the conservatorium and aspiring to be an opera singer. And I unfortunately had 2 bouts of cancer in a career interrupted, I like to call it. And that the second bout of cancer led me down the path of a lot of self-help and discovery within myself, and eventually led me to working with individuals, not just teaching them about the physical voice, but about the internal voice. And so I've now developed a business that works with individuals and corporations on how to communicate effectively.
So what do you mean by internal voice?
The internal voice being the essence of who we are. So being in alignment with our values, our beliefs, the thing that drives us, the thing that gets us out of bed in the morning, the passion. So being in alignment with that so that every conversation that we have, every interaction that we have, we're being authentic. I don't like that word. It's unfortunately, it's used to death today, but being in alignment with what your internal desires are and being able to confidently articulate that to the world.
Right. So I saw your Facebook video a couple weeks ago. And that was amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about your backstory? And you mentioned that you were diagnosed with cancer. Can you share some of that story with us?
Yeah, for sure. As I came out of the conservatorium, I was 23. And I started to have a bout of different types of ailments. I got a lot of pain in my back and was eventually diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease. And that set me on a path of, I had 3 biopsies, 6 months chemotherapy, and 6 weeks radiotherapy, and went on and lived a reasonable life. And then I got cancer of the cervix, and we're now 11 years after that as well. So the other day I went to my OBGYN and he said to me, look, I'm quite confident based on all of your bloods and analysis and seeing how you're living your life. He said, you're cured. This disease is not going to be a part of your life anymore. And then I went straight on to my oncologist that I've known for 22 years, and he basically said the same. He won't use the word cured, but he said, look, I don't want to see you for a couple of years. You're incredibly healthy. Go out and live your life. And so I made the video because in that moment, it took my breath away how much those words meant to me. I didn't realize how much it was in my subconscious, and to be given that gift and to be basically let out of jail. I don't have that white noise of doubt and fear in the back of my mind anymore, and it was incredibly empowering.
Oh, bad. So take us back. How was your recovery? I mean, I think there's going to be some listeners that are going through the same process that you've gone through, and hearing what you had to go through, I think would benefit them quite a bit. Sure. Yeah, can you talk a bit about that?
Sure. I came into Hodgkin's disease being, I suppose, very naive in health generally. When I was diagnosed, and I grew up with a bipolar schizophrenic father, so I had a lot of mental conditioning. So I had a very, let's call it, negative mindset. And then when I came into being diagnosed with the Hodgkin's disease, there was always this question inside of me that was, this is not you. This is not who you are. You need to find answers. And so going through the radiotherapy and the chemotherapy, which was, of course, I think they gave me the strongest drugs that they could then without killing me. That it was an incredible trial. The thing that I think was the hardest was the fact that once I was actually diagnosed, I became very isolated to society and family. Basically, family just went, we don't know how to deal with this. And I went through all of my treatment on my own and had to really go into that survival mode and find answers for myself. And so I started on the journey of self-help and started reading and then implementing strategies and making incremental changes in my life. And that was the first cancer that led me into, then I went on and had children. Having chemotherapy, there's always that element of doubt that you will be able to have children, but I had children successfully. And then I had the cancer of the cervix. And cancer of the cervix, looking back in reflection now, there was a few indicators that I couldn't 100% take responsibility for with the HPV virus. There's nothing that you can really do about that, although there is now today, but for my generation there wasn't. And then I also had an IUD inserted, which, looking back in reflection, I would never have again. The words the doctor used was, sometimes the cellular structure of your cervix can become unbalanced when you have an IUD inserted. And that was a remarkable comment. And so I immediately got that out. But I had a hysterectomy within 5 days of diagnosis. And it was from that point that I really started to go, okay, something that you're doing in your life isn't working. This is your second time round. And it was when all the doctors came and sat on my bed. I had oncologists, OBGYN, the surgeons, radiotherapists, you name it. They all came and sat on my bed and said, you can't get this disease again because there's nothing we can do. Your body won't take any more treatment. And it was then that I really started to implement change through all measures.
Right. So let's start with the self-help. What books did you read? What path did you go down there?
I started with Louise Hay. I'd grown up, my dad was reading Dale Carnegie and some of that era, and I resonated with Louise Hay and her metaphysical diagnoses for illness, and that when I read what Hodgkin's disease meant, it was me to a T. It was basically that you hate yourself so profoundly that you're poisoning your system. It was at that point that I realized, oh, you've got something to do with this. I absolutely 100% took responsibility that you cannot think the way you think anymore. You can't act the way you act. You can't eat the way you eat. You must make change, or else you are going to self-sabotage and combust.
Right.
So I started with Louise Hay. I went into a lot with Deepak Chopra. And then when I got the cancer of the cervix, someone handed me, almost passing in the street one day, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. And that has become my Bible. That really pushed me to the next level.
Yeah. I've read that a couple times too.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah. So mindset obviously plays a large part in. Do you think it had a lot to do with you getting the cancers to begin with? Do you think that it set you step up that way, or does it? How do you see mindset fitting in with that?
I see mindset probably for me being a major part of my illness, particularly the Hodgkin's disease, because I did hate myself so profoundly. What happened with my mindset was that my father, having the nervous breakdown that he had when I was 8, I was an oversensitive, very emotionally sensitive child. And so I literally overnight went from a fairly caring, sensitive father to a monster that was a Jekyll and Hyde. You didn't know who you were going to get from one minute to the next. And he was so profoundly ill that I got lost within that. And so anything that I would naturally do in who I am, that was never good enough for my father. So, I would want to go and make daisy chains and play with my horses all day and sing on the mountaintops. And my father would be like, that's not enough. You need to do more. You need to, study. You need to go for a run. You need to, no matter what I did was never enough. So I started to basically metamorphosize, trying to become something that my father wanted me to be. But now in reflection, again, being naive, I didn't realize that was impossible. I could never could never do that. So I got so lost in myself. I put on a lot of weight. I was a very heavy set teenager, and I literally could not look in the mirror. I despised myself. There was nothing, I went from one minute to the next minute in the day just finding absolute hate for myself. So that chatter that goes on, that negative chatter that goes on in so many of our heads, I think was just exacerbated, and it was debilitating, and I didn't realize it, and it just basically made my body ill.
Well, yeah, I guess if you're like, if you have that going on, it's harder to lead more of a healthier lifestyle. That way you're going to make different choices, right? Different food choices, different, different exercise, different lifestyles.
Oh, totally. And I was totally shackled because the thing that I would think I should naturally want to do or that would make me feel better, I would not do, because then that would not be good enough for my dad anyway. So I ended up becoming very stagnant. I just wouldn't do anything apart from, vigilantly. I became OCD. I would vigilantly clean the house and do things that were surface level pleasing to him, but I would sacrifice my own self to do that. And that leads into what I do today, which we can talk about in a little while, that I'm absolutely impassioned about helping young people, particularly young girls, but not only young girls, in their self-belief banter that goes on in their head, and helping them heal that, and finding strategies and ways in my own experience and study and research to help them do that, because no one should suffer that way.
Right. Well, yeah, let's talk about that. I wanted to talk about your diet and if other things. So what led to you being cured, or were there? I know there you would have been mindset. You would have been working on positive self-help. How about, do you have any strategies for, like, a couple of tips to get someone started who might be thinking the same way, or even just discovering if you are that way? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, when I had the Hodgkin's disease, just skipping through that, of course, I made a lot of changes to my diet. There was a lot more fresh food, a lot more salads, less. I used to drink a lot of diet drinks, cutting all of that sort of thing out of my diet, and eating a lot more consciously. Certainly I did do. But after I'd had the cancer of the cervix and I really had, the wake-up call, that was when I shifted gears big time. And I found a medicine called Ayurvedic medicine that really works on your individual body type, because I became, my inquisitive nature has kept me alive, and I just wanted to ask the question, why? What's going on? How can I make this better? What do I have to do? I am literally willing to do anything that I need. So it was a very slow process. It was a process of elimination. So I became vegetarian. I stopped eating any processed food, which included right down to cheese. I don't eat processed cheese. I went against what society says you should and shouldn't do, in that I have full cream, non-homogenized milk that's only warm, because my digestive system, which is the root of all disease, is so sluggish. I have to have warm food. So the Ayurvedic medicine encourages my body type to eat only warm food that is easy to digest. And the milk is easy to digest when it's warm for me. Right. I also cut out all other fats, bar I have ghee in my diet, which is a huge medicinal purpose, and it helps flushes the toxins out of my system. And I also implemented salt back into my diet moderately, but because I'm not eating anything processed, any food that I do have has a little bit of salt in it, which I didn't know carries the nutrients to the cells. So it was really a balance and a journey in the beginning of extracting a lot of toxins to get all of those toxins that I'd established over the years from treatment in my liver and kidneys, extracting those from my body, and also re-nurturing and replenishing the cells. So I spent a lot of time doing that. I don't eat anything that's got salicylate, so no tomato, no capsicum, red capsicums, a lot of fruits that might create acid. And it's not for everybody, but for my particular body type, some of those foods create acid, so I don't eat it. Don't eat wheat. That's a big no-no. Even eggplant. I'm not allowed to eat eggplant.
Right. So you met an Ayurvedic medicine specialist, and was that where you first learned about all of that? Is that where you got a lot of your education on diet and nutrition? Or did you have other health coaches? Or
Yes, for sure. I had other health coaches that I used in that hiatus period between the two cancers, and of course became very knowledgeable on lots of different things that I shouldn't do. But it was when I discovered that I should be eating for my body type that things really started to change. And it started to change because we started to see the proof in the bloods.
Right.
There was big changes. So when I stopped eating meat, my iron levels went up.
They went up. Oh, okay.
They went up. Okay, because Ayurvedic works on balance, so that if you have balance in the system, and as you will know, if you have the right amount of calcium and you have the right amount of this and that, the absorbency levels are all there. So the iron levels went up. My platelet levels were all very, very balanced. What else? My ESR level, which is something that I monitor closely. When I started on Ayurvedic, it was at a 15.
Right.
When I had cancer at the worst, and for those who don't know the ESR level, it's basically what the doctors use to read what state your body is in disease. So when I had cancer, it was at 30, and I've heard cases where it can be at 200. So when I started Ayurvedic, it was 15. After a couple of years, I got it down to 10, and it now sits at 4. So that's something that I really pride myself on, and make sure that I'm always chasing that to keep that acid level and that inflammation down in my system.
Right. So when you were transitioning, how was that? You would have to change your diet and what you were eating, and maybe learning how to cook, things like that.
It was horrible. I'm not going to say it was. Don't get me wrong, this journey has been horrific, but it's also been incredibly rewarding. I'm a bit like a kid in a candy store. I mean, when I go into a Mrs. Flannery's and I see a Hershey bag, I'm excited.
Right.
But when I started using Ayurvedic, I felt like I'd been put into a small village in India, didn't speak the language, had no idea of what to do, what to eat, how to make the food. Things like ajwain seeds, and making sure that you have turmeric, and making sure the balance and the blends are all perfect. Because Ayurvedic works on the 5 tastes, so astringent, pungent, sweet, sour. It makes sure that you've got all of those in every meal. So at first, the meals, my children were like, this is just revolting. So I had to go and spend time and learn with a guru on how to get that balance. And it was interesting because as soon as I actually became present and I actually watched and tasted and started to use all my senses and smell, I could understand that this is actually a practice. This is actually a form of meditation. This is a healing, what I'm doing here. So my whole ritual and my understanding and my love for nutrition has been exacerbated purely because of the Ayurvedic medicine.
Can you? So, do you have a morning routine or anything that sets you up for the day? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the first thing that I do when I get up is, and I can't not do it now, is I scrape my tongue. I get any of the toxins that are built up overnight off my tongue, and then I rinse my mouth with a sesame oil that helps to extract the toxins in the back of the mouth and the throat. You gargle that, then I scrape my tongue again and brush my teeth. That's the first thing. I usually do some form of exercise, and then I go and have a morning drink, which is a combination of lemon juice, honey, hot water, and there's also some fennel and another herb there which has gone right out of my head right now. But I do have that as a morning routine. I also do morning massage and a nasio routine, which is where you put some special oils up my nose to actually clean the sinuses out. So, yeah, there's a lot there in the morning.
Thanks, Lisa. I love listening to other people's morning routines and figuring out how they start their day and set themselves up for success for the day. And so thanks for sharing that, Lisa. And so I wanted to shift gears a little bit and talk about your work. And your focus is mainly you've got a pretty diverse business, and you enjoy really working with young girls and helping them succeed. Can you tell us a little bit about, who you like working with and how you can help these young girls?
Most of my clientele that come through the studio are somewhat introverted and don't have a lot of self-belief and are just struggling on a day-to-day level of functioning in society and communicating, and actually, having the confidence to say what they think and they feel and sharing that with the world, because I know firsthand what that feels like and how destructive that can be to not feel validated as a human being. So no matter whether I'm working with teenage girls or I'm working with a 45, 55-year-old CEO, you always find there's a little girl locked up inside somewhere. So we work a lot on mindset. I would say 80% of my studio work with helping people find their voice and developing strength is about mindset, and it always goes back to somewhere in their psyche.
So you don't just work with singers, right? It's not.
No.
Okay. And
no, I keep my studio very bespoke, or boutique is the word, with my singers. I have only a handful of singers, and I choose them very carefully. But my passion is to work with business owners and making a difference in their lives, in their family, in their relationships, in where they want to get in their careers. That's where I really, really thrive. And love making that difference.
And you have some coaching or some programs or a book?
At the moment, I am working on compiling a book because too many people are saying, have you written this down? Can I get this somewhere? Just on my philosophy about what communication and about talking and speaking is about and how it can change your world. So I'm actually working on that at the moment. I'm doing some research, and I'm actually got the opportunity to work with Deepak Chopra himself on some primordial healing sounds. So wow. I'm in the process of that at the moment.
That sounds exciting. Congratulations.
Yeah, I am really excited about it. It's just, there's nothing. I've looked in psychology. I've looked in so many different areas trying to find the answer, and I can't. So it's almost like the book is a thesis of my own in what I've learned and how I understand it, because it is shifting people's states and making a difference. So I just want to have it accessible to as many people as I can.
That sounds so cool, Lisa. I can't wait to read it. So I've got 2 young daughters that I'm trying to raise at the moment, or that we're trying to raise, I should say. And can you give me some tips on how I could help them increase their self-confidence?
Look, I'll share with you something that seems to be working, and I talk about it just about every single day with my clients, and I work on a 1% rule. And I learned this rule when I finished, when I'd had the cancer of the cervix, and it was all part of my sea change, massive life change. I went back to my roots, which was where I had horses. And I decided that I needed to practice being present. And the best way to do that is to be around horses, because if you're not present, you're going to get hurt. So I started doing that. And as I went into that, I wanted more. I didn't want to just have the glory of getting on their back and riding them. I wanted to understand, how do I communicate with these horses? And there's the original horse whisperer, Monty Roberts, I went and studied. And he spent time with the Mustangs out in in the fields and learned all of their nuances and how their hierarchy works and how they communicate. So he then created a strategy and a system on how we could translate that for humans. And I now use that in my studio where I have the 1% rule. So it's basically about a pressure and release. If you have a horse, you've got them by the head and you hold their head up. You're not hurting them, you're just holding their head up, and they have a fair amount of resistance. You hold it there until they just release that 1% where you just feel the pressure come off, and you reward them for that, and well done. And so the next day, if you do that, every single day over 3 months, you've got 90% improvement. So with let's use an introvert 16-year-old child who's struggling in, walking through a doorway before somebody else, or walking into a shopping center alone, or, just really struggling, I use this and I say, okay, this week I want you to walk through that doorway before your mother. Now, that may sound really simple, but when a child that's struggling with this can actually do that, walk through the doorway, and that's all that's expected of them, and they're rewarded for that, that's when I see the biggest results. Another example would be if I ask them to do something with their voice where they have to make a loud sound, which is very confronting because it creates all of this turmoil inside of them, that what if the world doesn't like hearing or feeling what I've got to say? And that you can see this blankness comes over their face. And I say, okay, I'm going to show you what I want you to do. Then you're going to go home. You're going to practice this in your studio at home. The next week they come back and they do it and they don't even think about it. But if I'd put that pressure on them in the studio, then they wouldn't, they'd lose faith in me. So the 1% rule is something that I use with my children as well. I have a 14-year-old daughter, and she doesn't like dressing up too much because she doesn't want to be seen. Literally doesn't want to be seen. So we use it every time. Okay, you're going to wear your hair out this time. Just wear your hair out. That's all I want you to do. And that's a big struggle for her, but she does it and she feels good about herself. It's about those incremental building blocks in making them feel good about themselves, and they've made that choice and they've done something that they know that they can feel good about themselves, and they're developing.
Wow, I love that analogy with the horse. Thank you so much. I'm going to use that with definitely going to give me something to think about. When I'm trying to help my girls. So thank you.
That's okay.
Do you have a motto or a phrase that's important to you, Lisa?
Yes. The mantra that I use quite often is "this too shall pass." I think that is the one that I always come back to when things are tough and I'm starting to struggle. I go straight into that, this too shall pass, and that immediately takes out any anxiety and what I'm trying to achieve, or the struggle that I'm going through at the time, and also allows a flow to come through in spirituality, physicality, all of those things. It takes all those barriers away.
Right, you're living proof of that too.
Yeah.
What's one word of advice that you were given, and how has that helped your life?
One word of advice. One word of advice was from my mother when I first had the Hodgkin's disease, and I was fighting being sick. I was trying to be stoic and carry on, and form resistance, more and more resistance in myself. And she said, for goodness sake, just stop. Just stop. And she used the analogy that a big old oak tree never continuously grows. It grows in spurts. That's why you get the rings, and it rests, and then it gets that energy to grow a little bit more, and then it stops again. And I think that's something that I go through my life, and I'll push and I'll push, and then I stop, and I'll push and I'll push, and then I'll stop, and I allow myself that space to stop, because if I don't, I will burn out.
Beautiful. Lisa, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that want to work with you. How can people get a hold of you?
The best way to get a hold of me is on my website, and all of the information, anything you can read more about me and what I offer and programs and that sort of thing. And that's Lockland-Bell.com.
Okay. We'll have the links to all your information on our show notes as well.
Great.
So do you have any last thoughts or words of advice?
Look, I think that one of the key things, if you're thinking about my survival and being given the all clear, the word cured, is there was really three things that I did, and one of them was I took responsibility. I took the responsibility back for my life. I didn't rely just on the doctors to make me better by giving me a tablet, and that they were the only people that had information. I went and I researched and I studied and learnt what worked for me. Then implementing that into my life. So your food and your exercise and routine. Routine is one of the key strategies to my survival, is creating routine and structure so that my body can relax and rely and know that it's going to get all the nurturing that it needs and the love that it needs. And the last thing, that I didn't do it on my own. I literally created a team of people around me. I had nutritionists, I had psychiatrists, I had natural healers, I went and did Reiki. I had all of my my gurus in reading all of their work, and I also had my physios. I had my chiropractor that I went to a lot because my back was an absolute mess because the Hodgkin's disease was sitting around the vertebrae. No matter what I needed, I went and found that person, and they then became a part of my team. And people have come and gone, but I still have a team, and I like that I can sleep better at night knowing that I've got a team of people there that if I have a question or if I have a doubt or something's going on, I can go and ask that person and put my mind at rest so I don't have to create that anxiety.
Perfect. Well, Lisa, thank you for today. Thanks for being so open and honest with us and sharing your story. What a beautiful story. And thanks for being so open and honest.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to Unleash Your Genius with your host, Dr. Brian Peterson. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit unleashyourgenius.com. We'll catch you next time.